Hello, welcome to our broadcast about video games and they affect people. Our first question we're going to answer is, how do games affect your behaviour?
Well, I don't really think they have an effect on people at all, because for some research from a clinical psychologist called Chris Ferguson, he did some analysis on violence compared to when violent video games came out, and he found that there was actually no increase in violence in the increase of violent video games.
But there's the odd case of people doing stuff because of a game, they got inspiration from a game, say Doom. It's really gory, and some people take ideas from that, and creativity happens, and they sort of do that against people. Sort of learn that from games, but some people, there's all that anomaly of people getting hurt.
I think it just comes down to if people have any mental issues or anything, it can cause some effect, but the majority of it isn't due to the actual game's content. I think it's got other factors like their addiction to the games instead of the actual content.
Well, I think these children, they can see someone die in a game and they can think, oh well, I could kill someone like that, but it's not the game that makes them want to kill someone, that's just how they feel they could do it. So because of their predisposed disorder that makes them kill people, they just take the ideas from games. It's not the game that's manipulating them to do it.
Do you think video games have made you more violent in life, or made you when you never played games before, did you feel more calmer in day-to-day life, or when you started playing games, you started playing these violent games, did you feel more violent and more angry towards something or towards a person?
Well, personally, I feel that when I'm playing violent games, I get a bit more competitive, because most of the time they're multiplayer games like Call of Duty, and so I feel that most of the anger is about the competitiveness rather than about the violence of the game itself.
What if you say you get competitive? Do you I know some people, they throw controllers about or maybe hurt themselves, punching a wall, something like that, or punching something, or doing something to their body. Do you think that could be a major issue for people? Because they could, if they get really competitive about a game and they don't win, they go and some, say for example, someone came up, they just lost a game, and they throw the controller at them, or they throw something at them because they've annoyed them because they think that's the reason why they lost. Do you think that's an issue because it's sort of hurting other people as well?
Well, I think that kind of comes under the mental issues, because if they have anger issues or anything, I think that's a really strong impact in their behaviour. If they feel they get that angry about a game like FIFA or something, I feel they should probably take more breaks so they don't build up this rage to a point where they actually get really violent, because it's not healthy.
Well, yeah, because frustration's always going to be a big part of games, especially competitive ones, especially one that takes in multiple people into perspective. But there's a huge difference between getting a bit frustrated at a game and planning murder or something that's a lot more horrific than just spur of the moment bit of hitting or something.
Do you think if a person plays a violent video game before and they stop playing that game and then they want a new violent game but not allowed it, do you think the violence maybe from that game, if they don't get what they want, they'll turn violent towards that person, their parents?
Well, I think there have been cases where parents have taken away games and the kids get so angry that they have killed their parents over. There's one case where the parents took away kids' Halo 3 and he got so angry that he killed them in their sleep and he ended up getting arrested. I think it still just comes under how many hours that they play on the game, because they get addicted to it, so as soon as they get it taken away or anything like that, they can react really badly.
Yeah, because in cases like that, it really comes down to how long the parents are letting them play it. Because if you allow your kid to become addicted, and if you are a bit softer on them when it comes to how many hours they get to play a day, it can then become a problem when, to you need to stop them playing it. And to a child like that who is used to that, is now addicted, may have some sort of mental disorder, something like autism, where they're not used to changes in their schedule, could cause some pretty kind of violent outbursts from such a change in their schedules.
Yeah, I see where you come from. But there's peggy veins for people to keep violence to a down, so children don't play these GTA games or Call of Duty games. But nowadays, it's peggy veins don't mean anything to anyone anymore, because parents can go buy a game for their 12-year-old son, they can play it, because I personally, I've played 18 games when I was underage, and I know loads of people who have done as well, because I think it's because they don't, because if someone else, they're 15, you're friends with someone else who's about under 18, and they got this game for 18 years old, and then the kid wants it as well, but the parents don't allow it because it's too old for them. Like, it sort of makes them feel left out. So like the PEGI ratings don't really mean anything to anyone anymore, I don't think, because it doesn't really matter what people do anymore.
Like, as you get really popular games, it becomes kind of a fad to own them. It becomes sort of a statement to be like, oh, you know, I own this game, and so therefore I fit into a certain group. And so with games like that, it just becomes something that, you know, every other kid owns, and so parents kind of think, well, if all these other kids own it, there's not really much of a problem. And most parents, well, some parents anyway, they just kind of want their kids to leave them alone for a bit. So they just kind of feel like, oh, it's only a little bit of a violent game, and it is a game in general, so they just kind of feel like it's a good way for them to spend time and for them to get away as well.
At a young age, if you're playing like GTA, at a very young age, and because in GTA there's drugs in about 60.91% real drugs are in games, mostly cocaine. But then you think like that's a worrying fact, because if you see a 12-year-old playing a GTA game, they see like Trevor snorting a line of coke, do you think that's what their parents want to see their kids playing? Do you
I
think?
think the parents don't really monitor what their kids are playing. That's the main problem that we have now. They think that it's just a normal game, harmless game, where in fact it has got a lot of adult nature to it. So they don't really understand the age ratings. Really, they don't pay attention to it. They just buy the game for their kids, and that's it. They don't really look back on it. But they actually knew what was going on in the games. I think that they would either just limit the amount of time they play it, or just take the game away. Probably help a lot of kids.
With stuff like drugs, it's a lot easier to hit someone out of frustration from a game than it is for a child under the age of 18 to get their hands on illegal substances like cocaine or heroin. They're such a controlled substance that it's, you know, difficult to get your hands on them illegally. I mean, obviously there are places out there, but even those places wouldn't sell to people underage.
But especially to still like young ages, microtransactions are quite big things in games now. Like, they've become more popular than ever, I think. Especially in FIFA Ultimate Team, there's PEGI ratings age rating 3, and there's microtransactions in the game, and like the highest FIFA points you can get are like £80. So it's sort of a way that kids, if they do want that sort of, like if they want like 12,000 FIFA points to get 99 rated Ronaldo, then they're gonna ask their mum or dad, and they're gonna say no, and they might get frustrated, or they might try and, because they want it so badly, they might try and steal their dad's or mum's credit card off them or something like that, because they really want to play. So like, do you think that's another way for like young children to play these games that encourage them to like spend loads and loads of money on?
Well, yeah, because it comes under the addiction thing. Once they start buying these packs or whatever they're buying, these microtransactions build up this like addiction that is like a low-class gambling addiction. There have been like cases where children have like spent thousands of pounds either just on like mobile games where their parents' credit cards are linked to their account, so it's like so easy for kids to start spending money and paying for the pretty much worthless products that have no real life value, and just waste so much money just for pointless stuff.
Well, I understand and respect the option to put in microtransactions. You know, the game makes a certain limit on sales, and then, you know, while they're developing new games, which could take upwards of a year, I think it's understandable to want to make a bit more from that game. But I also feel that with things like the roulette stuff that you have in chests and that there really needs to be some sort of control put into it. I think there needs to be more warnings like they now do with gambling about, you know, when the fun stops, stop. And I also think that maybe a purchase limit per week or per month for players to stop them from just overspending because they get addicted to it. So if you limited them to like a certain amount of money or a certain amount of chest purchases per week, that it could help control them to stop them spending over an amount that could then end up causing them problems.
But there is a worry that if they do this at such a young age, it's sort of like you said, gambling addiction. Like sort of, if they do that at a very, very young age and they have that addiction for the rest of their life, then you think that's a big, big way for like young kids nowadays to do that and go to casinos and spend loads and loads of money, potentially in the long term, that they could become homeless or bankrupt in the near future.
Well, that's why I think the warnings would kind of help kids understand that this isn't a good thing to do. Because right now they understand that, a lot of kids are going to understand that what you're getting isn't really worth much real, in real money. So you're not really getting your money's worth when you put any money in. And so I feel like those warnings would help. And yeah, it could be a kind of a gateway into kind of worse gambling addictions that have a real impact on your life. And so I feel that if a game has this kind of gambling thing, it should have that warning on it, and that parents should also kind of be a part of explaining to kids that this isn't something they should continue to such a severe point.
There are cases where like loads of third party companies start up these websites for like gambling, especially for like Counter-Strike, where they have these online websites where people can like either deposit real like their in-game skins that they've spent money to earn or buy, and they deposit these skins for some fake currency for this one website, or they could have like a website balance where they can use their PayPal account or credit cards to up this balance, and they start gambling, trying to earn either more balance or other people's skins that they've deposited, and there is no real kind of barrier stopping these like young underage kids to start gambling. Really, it's literally just one click and they can get onto this one website.
So do you think like we should just stop microtransactions like forever, like get rid of microtransactions, or should we keep on letting people buy tons and tons, thousands of their hard work money into this game or into these games and get nothing at the end of it?
Oh, well, I think they should just have some limits for these microtransactions, like price limits and how much people can spend on a certain game. Or
Yeah, because the main problem is there's no real control or warnings for these. They just games and these companies, they just show off what you could get, but it never warn you that your chances are low or that it could become a problem buying too many. Because with things like in CS, they'll always show you off all the best skins, and in Overwatch they always show you all the best skins, but they never actually show you the statistics of you actually getting what you are actually there wanting. And they never warn you that buying too many can cause problems for your account.
Do you think like opinion leaders like YouTubers and people that like watch these videos like FIFA and they open a pack and they get these really good players and they think, yes, if I open this pack I'm going to get this player, but in the end term they don't? So do you think, like, especially like sometimes games companies do have more luck to YouTubers, because if they get all these great players and spend like little bit of money, and then the kid or the person watching them gets the idea that if they get this card or they get this amount of FIFA points, that they will get that player they want. But in reality, that's not what happens, and you spend tons and tons of money like getting this player or getting this item that potentially they could get. So do you think like YouTubers sort of help or make it worse for people to buy microtransactions or do anything like that?
they definitely make it worse for like underage people, because loads of kids just watch YouTubers all the time, and these YouTubers spend thousands of pounds or dollars for these games, and it doesn't help that a lot of these companies reach out to these YouTubers for them to publicise their game or their websites, because a lot of Counter-Strike YouTubers go on these betting websites and they pay these YouTubers money just for them to publicise it, and they can spend, and they give them like the website currency as well, like I was saying before, where they don't actually have to deposit skins or pay their money. So the YouTubers are pretty much just betting with free money, really, that isn't theirs. And these YouTubers show these kids how fun betting is, and they don't really say, they never tell them never go under, like if you're under 18 or whatever the age limit is for betting or gambling, they never really publicise that. They just want people to use their affiliation code with this website.
Because it was a huge problem a few years ago where YouTubers were making their own CSGO betting sites, and so they would they wouldn't say they were theirs, and then they'd publicise them and be like, oh yeah, this site's really good. You get all this, you get good money and you get good skins from it. When really they actually owned the sites themselves, which is how they got all the currency, which is how they got all the good skins from it. And you feel that like they don't say the problems of gambling. You do have some YouTubers who are like, you know, I'm just doing this. It's my money. I know it's something I shouldn't do, and they kind of say and explain why it's a bad thing, but they do it anyway because they know that's what their viewers want to see. And then you have other YouTubers who just do it and they give no warning. They just do it because, and then they only show the good stuff they get. They don't show how many times it took or how long it took for them to get the good stuff. They just go straight cutting to the good stuff. I feel like that's a big problem. Cool. Again, with warning people is the main issue with online gambling.
Well, going on from your point, YouTubers get sponsored a lot. They get sponsored a lot to promote, like you say, these sites or these games and all these microtransactions. They get sponsored. They basically, like you said, they spend, like Kai said, they don't spend any money on them, or they just because they get sponsored for it. So I think that's a massive way. I think like YouTubers nowadays is just getting worse because they're sort of leading their audiences down the wrong path, and that's quite an effect in the long term. Because the might not be effective, but in the long term, it's very, very scary, especially for parents. And like, you know, if their kid grows up to be a gambler or addiction to gambling or buys loads of microtransactions on games as well, then it's a scary point for parents to think about that. So I think the YouTubers are just quite bad for like sponsor sites and all that.
Yeah, because again, it kind of goes back to the point of what the YouTubers show. Because if they only show the good things, then these kids will then just start thinking, so the chances of getting something bad are really low. Because this person's gotten all these really good ones so many times in a row. Not realising that really what's happening is these things are being edited to look like they're just getting it one after the other. Because it would be a boring thing to watch one YouTuber just get 60 common things in a row and then one good thing. That would take forever to watch, and it would be really dull to watch as well. But the fact is they don't explain that that's what they're doing. They just show, we're getting good stuff, isn't this awesome? And the kids are then going, yeah, that is. And they think, that's something I could do really easily as well.
Do you think that YouTubers should show even the worst parts of their video, the worst part, or the bad parts, or the bad things they get because of how it's affecting their audience? Or do you think they should keep the good parts in to keep the video interesting for their viewers?
I think they should just be honest about what's actually happening, because YouTubers are asked a lot to promote not just, you know, loot boxes, but also games in general. And so I feel like, well, yeah, you should promote what you're being paid to promote for, but I think you should be honest in what you're promoting. Because whilst you're being paid for it, and whilst, yeah, you get the occasional good thing, it's best to also say that there are bad points to things as well.
So back to violence about video games. Call of Duty, one of the best franchises out there, have an immediate effect on people as a term called swatting. When a person makes a false report to send police to another person or a fake address, and in most cases it's a row over Call of Duty. One person pranks calls someone else and that person potentially gets killed. Do you think that's a problem and we should stop Call of Duty the franchise, or have a limitation or a limit to people doing this?
Well, it's definitely a huge issue, but it's one that can't really be avoided no matter what the game, really. Because this is a huge thing that's seen, especially with streamers. People who will live stream them playing games. And these are the people who usually get swatted through this method. And it's a problem that it's going to be difficult to avoid. Because especially in places like America, where gun violence is very, very common, and especially things with problems with firearms, weapons and drugs, it becomes a thing that they can't ignore it. And they also can't just be slightly coy about going in. They have to act like what they received is completely true. And this isn't going to change just by getting rid of violent video games, because what the people doing these swattings are is they're just immature. They're just thinking of some kind of joke and some kind of prank, when really this has a very serious issue to everyone.
Well, going back to the gambling sort of thing, there's like Call of Duty uses, well, it's not Call of Duty the company, but like there's kind of MLG events and stuff, and there's, for the people that aren't really good enough for these big events, they can host game battles, which is just like a website. You can go online and like you can place bets on either like a Call of Duty team, like esports team, or little games that anyone can pretty much take part in. And recently there was a small game battle kind of event happening where it was for a small amount. It was like $1.50 something, and the person that lost didn't want to pay up. So the person that won, and he kind of got really angry, he ended up contacting someone that can swat this person that didn't want to pay up, but they got the wrong address, and it ended up someone getting killed, and because they made a false claim about this person. I think they told the police that he's taken hostages and he's killed some people already, which was a lie. But the police have no way in confirming this, because the way that they kind of hide their phone call, phone number, so they can't track down this person easily. But this person's ended up being arrested, and he's been charged for manslaughter or something.
So don't you think that's a big worry? Because, like you said, they got the wrong address. So, one, they got innocent killed. Two, it's wasting police time. And three, it's sort of crying wolf, because it's sort of a prank calling the police to go to this random house to get someone innocently shot, and it's wasting police time. And then when someone is in actual danger and the police ain't doing anything, or not doing it, in the future they could do nothing about it, because they might think it's a prank call, or they might think it's something similar, so they don't think it's a prankster calling, not an actual problem. Then again, that person who called up is going to be in immediate danger, and no one's going to help them because of all these pranksters and all these Call of Duty players swatting other people. Has made it harder for the police to do their job right. Some people do, young people, like say 13, 14, do call up the police and do swatting, and they get served 14 years, 11 years in jail. So it's not only for a way for the other person, but it's also a way for the younger teenagers nowadays playing these games and doing something so ridiculous that they just ruin their life in about 5 minutes of just calling up the police. So you got to worry about that as well. It's not just about the person getting swatted on, it's also about the person who is prank calling them, who could just potentially just ruin their life over a row on Call of Duty. So it's not going to help anyone in the situation. And like I say, I know police can't help knowing the fact it is a prank call or not a prank call, but it's not helping anyone in the fact that it's not helping anyone to play the game and have fun with the game.
Well, it comes down to the parents watching their child, is because while the majority of children who play games, they're left to their own devices to just kind of play them, so the parents can get some kind of peace for a bit. But then it comes down to how the parent are watching the child and how the parent is teaching the child. Because a child should know right from wrong, especially around the ages of 12 to 14. And so they should know that calling the police with a fake claim is a bad thing to do. And they should be taught that there's consequences to their action. And around that age, they should already know that.
But some teenagers aren't. Some teenagers are dumb. Some teenagers are there with the crowd, or they think they're funny doing this because someone else has done it on YouTube, or someone else has done it on Twitch, and they think it's funny. So they learn off their mistakes, and it affects them more than anything. So some teenagers are really smart. They don't do anything stupid or anything like that. But some teenagers aren't, and just do it for the fun of it, to impress their mates or impress someone. So there's always that worry of them messing up for just this one thing.
That's why issues like this and the consequences of things like this should be something that's spoken about more, that should be more public to gamers, especially if younger ones. The game developers can't just have a hour-long video at the start explaining all the problems of gaming. But I think that parents, when they're buying their children these 18 plus games or 16 plus or whatever kind of age rating it is, they need to explain that the problems and issues that could arise while they're playing. Because frustration at something like Call of Duty is quite common. It's a competitive game. People get frustrated when they lose, when they die. It's common. These things should be explained beforehand by the parents and by companies and by schools, that there's issues and how to deal with them.
Well, I think with this recent death from swatting and stuff, I think it's brought a lot of publicity. Even though it's a terrible thing, it's brought it to people's eyes that this stuff is happening online and stuff. It's not just one thing. I think people have gone into researching this topic mainly because of this one situation that's happened, and they've realised it's happened quite a lot over the years and stuff. None to this extreme, but has happened quite a lot.
Thank you very much for listening to our broadcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.